So even as the war in Iran is continuing, it's not like Iran has let up on opponents inside the country. There are reports of people being thrown into jail, activists, the usual suspects, people from opposition groups, even some reformists who were part of the government at some point, part of the Islamic Republic, are being put under pressure. There are reports of people being hung, executed, allegedly for taking part in protests, charged with kind of specious charges of killing police officers in a few instances. But it seems like one particular group that is under pressure during this time is rather curious. The Baha'is, that's a religious minority in Iran that by philosophy, in their theology, they are quietist. That means that they don't participate in politics and they're encouraged to stay away from politics. I'm Borzu Deragahi. You are listening to my Substack newsletter podcast. It's called Badlands. You can subscribe at borzu.substack.com. That's Borzou. And I'm here today with Padideh Sabeti. She is the spokesperson for the Baha'i community internationally, or at least one of the spokespeople. I'll let her explain who she is and what she does. And we're here to talk about why it is that Iran is cracking down on this particular group at this particular time. It seems kind of baffling to me. But let me start with just asking, Padideh, as I try to explain to people, because just as a matter of coincidence, I have a lot of relatives who are Baha'i. My parents were both raised Baha'i, so I know a little bit about this faith. But when I tell people that I'm actually not of Muslim origin, most of my relatives are Baha'i, they're just kind of confused and they're like, "Huh, what is that? Is that like the Zaydis? Is that like a version of Islam? Is that like Shia?" Can you just explain to people who are watching and listening what Baha'i is?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much, Borzu, for inviting me on your program. I serve as the spokesperson, one of the spokespersons for the Baha'i international community, and in particular, at this particular time where the Baha'is of Iran do not have a voice, as a voice of the Baha'i community in Iran. Many of your audiences may be familiar or have heard about the Baha'i faith, but let's start by saying that the Baha'i faith is an independent world religion that originated from Iran. So that's why there is a large population of Baha'is in Iran. In fact, the Baha'is in Iran are one of the largest non-Muslim religious minority in Iran, and with peaceful principles. So Baha'is really believe in oneness of mankind, oneness of religion, and oneness of God. So which is not really in contradiction to any of Islamic beliefs. In fact, the Baha'is all over the world, they respect Islam and accept its divinity. Baha'is, wherever they live, they try and promote their principles through non-adversarial and principled and peaceful manner. So we're not pacifist, we're not inactive, we're actually protagonists in society promoting peaceful ideas like equality, justice. And Baha'is in Iran, despite all limitations, have got a track record of peacefully promoting these ideas of equality, justice, rule of law, and they have a good track record of serving their country in a practical and active manner.
Yeah, so if I may ask, what is happening right now with Baha'is inside Iran? I know it's super difficult to get information out of the country because of the internet block, but there are actually some ways of accessing Iran, especially through, believe it or not, if you have an Iranian messaging app installed on your phone in Iran, and then you leave the country, you can continue to use that messaging app to speak to people in Iran, speak to anyone in Iran. But what is happening inside the country from what you can tell to Baha'is?
Yes, so for context, I think your audience may have heard of the prolonged persecution of the Baha'is in Iran. So for the
No,
past
no, they haven't. I'm sure that many people haven't. So feel free to discuss the history of it a little bit.
So let's just start by saying that since 1979 revolution in Iran, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Baha'is have endured consistent and prolonged period of persecution, which could be described as persecution from cradle to grave, because this discrimination and persecution has extended to all areas of their lives. So in the 1980s, many Baha'is were captured, tortured, and executed without due process. And then more recently, or during this period, Baha'is have experiences their houses being raided. Then their personal belongings would be confiscated. Then they will be arrested. So they go through this revolving doors, and hardly any Baha'i hasn't been immune from this revolving doors of their houses being raided and arrested. And then occasionally they are released on bail. They have to pay exorbitant values to be released on bail, and then to wait for their trials. And then more recently, actually experiencing long sentences. So then the
Wait, this can't be because they are Baha'i. I'm sure they're accused of other crimes. It's not like the law is written that says that there's official discrimination against Baha'i, is it?
So the government of Iran tries to give it a veneer or legitimize it by accusing Baha'is of acting against national security or they're enemies of Islam, without providing a shred of evidence, which it could be scrutinized at the international level. That's why there is a lot of support for the Baha'is and understanding of their predicament in Iran at international human rights organization, United Nations. There has been resolution after resolution confirming that Baha'is are persecuted in Iran only because of their beliefs. Another evidence is that Baha'is are tortured and coerced to deny their faith. This is something that they have resisted, and they have, because they really believe in this principle of truthfulness, and they have resisted, and they have not denied their religion. For this reason, they have been denied of certain professions or governmental jobs, denied access to higher education. Their properties have been confiscated, and their cemeteries have been destroyed. So that's what we mean from cradle to grave. They have experienced persecution at all levels.
Is the discrimination codified in any way? Is it like explicit, or is it kind of informal?
So at the beginning of the revolution, the Baha'is in Iran would go to the authorities and trying to appeal to access justice systems. But in 1991, there was a document, a secret document, that was actually signed by the late Ayatollah Khamenei, that said in that it was a blueprint that stated that the progress of the Baha'is must be blocked. And then they referred to certain areas, like in universities, if Baha'is, if they actually declare their faith, they said they're Baha'is, they should be expelled. So this document came to the possession of United Nations, and it was revealed to all of us that this is a systematic, state-sponsored persecution. And that's why the case of Baha'is actually came to the international level. The case was referred to international human rights organization to basically ask Iran to respond and stop this systematic persecution of the Baha'is.
And in recent weeks, as the war and the sort of, actually, it's not even recent weeks, it's like 3 months of protests, blackout, chaos, human rights abuses, violence, and airstrikes from foreign powers. Has the situation there improved or gotten worse from what you can tell?
Yes, this is a really worrying sign because in recent weeks and months we see that arrests of the Baha'is, even in this condition that the war condition, the Baha'is have been arrested. You've mentioned at the beginning that there's a internet blackout, so we can't give an accurate picture, but we know even during this febrile condition, the Islamic regime hasn't stopped the crackdown on the Baha'i community. More worrying than that, most political prisoners have been released, because this is what happens during condition of war. They are released, but more worrying, and this may be an indication that this government has plans for the Baha'is, or the animosity persists even under these conditions. Not only Baha'is haven't been released, but there have been more arrests across the country.
But can you cite any examples? Have there been any cases that you are following inside Iran right now?
There is one very concerning case. It's a case of a youth called Peyvand Daimi, which has actually attracted a lot of international attention. This youth was arrested on 8th of January, and then we see on 1st of February, he appeared on the television through false confession to confess, obviously through this coercion, that he was involved in protests, instigating violence, and so on. And then since then, we have news that this young person has been tortured, coerced, has gone through mock hanging to confess to further crimes that he has not committed.
So this is, wait, just to explain what a mock hanging is. That's basically when they say, okay, son, your time is up. We're taking you now, say your last prayers. This morning is the end of your life. And then they take him into a room or a courtyard and put the rope around his neck and basically, let him suffer for a few minutes, and then tell him that, no, actually, you're not going to be killed today.
That's correct. Yes, this has happened to him twice. He had to endure this twice, to the point that he felt that the chair was going to be knocked off from his feet. As you can imagine, this is a traumatic experience. We know Peyvand's health is both psychologically and physically is deteriorating. He was bound for 48 hours. He was obviously tortured, and a lot of pressure to confess that he has been involved in the alleged killing of 3 Basiji personnel in Iran, which he refused to do because the madness of it is that while this alleged crime has taken place, he was in prison. So this is nothing just makes sense, and I don't know what the authorities are playing at. But I just wanted to point out that we're highlighting this case of this very gentle soul. Peyvand is a trainer. He trains animals, dogs. It just shows a gentle side to him. But so they're putting pressure on him, and we're highlighting them because we know he is suffering. But I just wanted to point out a wider implication for the Baha'i community. It's a worrying sign that they have broadcasted this false confession on state TV, because we know that there's a febrile environment in Iran with the war. The emotions are raw, and I mean, if they had any evidence, there has been no trial, no presenting of any evidence or any charges, like solid charges, hence the false confession and broadcasting of it. So this has implication for mobilizing people against the Baha'i community in general, and for a government that has the responsibility to protect its citizens. This is truly an irresponsible conduct. They're just trying to, by these false confessions, to justify their cruelty and the crime they're committing against the Baha'i community in Iran.
Let's put ourselves for just a second in the minds of the regime. Why? Why try to depict this minority, which is completely neutralized, completely marginalized? People are scared. People in Iran, I've lived in Iran. People are scared when they're Baha'i. They're scared to say it, even if and they may lie about it on an application or something like that, just to avoid the hassle. But people in Iran Baha'is are not exactly like politically active. Why would the Iranian regime try to do this? What advantage does this give them, do you think?
Well, they have been consistent in their behavior. Actually, during times of crisis, the Iranian government has scapegoated the Baha'is through systematic disinformation, false allegation, and basically anti-Baha'i propaganda. And there's a large machinery that does that at so many levels to deflect the attention from whatever grievances that the public have. So Baha'is have always been consistently scapegoated at the time of national crisis. I just wanted to point out that Baha'i community has showed a great resilience, and I think this is a cause of contention for the Islamic regime. I know of people, my own family, that the form was put in front of them to say that you're not Baha'i, recant your faith, and they refuse to do that. And there's so many Baha'is, I would say 99.9% of the Baha'is refuse. And we see this sticking to your principles and truthfulness as what we call a constructive resilience, because this is what we are trying to build through our personal action, and to create a model that there are certain principles that are worth sacrificing for giving your lives for. And in fact, Borzu, there are so many personalities, let's say personalities out there with voices that they used to say to the Baha'is, just deny your faith. It's just, you can just say it and then stick to your faith. Why do you go through all this trouble? Now those celebrities are coming out and saying lying is not the way. We're not going to improve or better our society, and we have to learn from the Baha'is and not to lie about our beliefs and faiths. So we see actually a support on a large scale from the Iranian population who may have prejudices against the Baha'is, but now they don't believe the lies of these regimes, and they have come to support them. There are organizations after organizations that have done their own research, like Human Rights Watch, the Bruman Foundation. They have produced documentations after extensive research that indicates that the actions of the Iranian government throughout these 47 years amounts or meet the threshold for crime against humanity, which is a legal definition.
It strikes me also that, unlike other minorities in Iran, including Jewish people, Christian people, Sunni, Kurds, etc., the Baha'is are relatively defenseless globally, etc. Whereas, for example, if they say, oh, the Sunnis are doing this or the Jews are doing this, they risk real major international repercussion. The Kurds also have weapons and militias and so on, whereas the Baha'is have no way of really fighting back. So I think it's just an easy victim, an easy scapegoat of all the minorities that they could choose to pin this on.
This is true to some extent, that Baha'is will not resort to violence, of course. We have always tried to pursue legal structures to put our case. And I would say that the Baha'is have been successful in taking their case to international institutions like United Nations. You may be aware that when the fact-finding mission submitted its report. They mentioned the persecution of the Baha'is as a worrying activity that is taking place in Iran, in particular Baha'i women who have been disproportionately affected by this persecution. So I'm actually grateful to various governments around the world who have raised the case of the Baha'is, either publicly as we speak. There are MEPs, European parliamentarians, and national parliamentarians who are speaking out. There are celebrities who are actually speaking out in the case of Peyvand Naimi and in general persecution of the Baha'is. So we can't complain. We're going to carry on raising awareness because that's the only way that we could raise the case of the Baha'is in Iran.
Just a couple questions I wanted to ask, a little tougher questions. Do you think that the Baha'is are in favor of the war right now? Are they supporting the war? Are they against the war? Or are they, like most Iranians, kind of split as a community?
You see, the Baha'i community, we have to understand that it's a minority community in Iran. Baha'is are a peaceful body. They are a peaceful community. They don't interfere in politics. They're non-partisan. And what we believe that our actions, the ends, must be consistent with the means. So the Baha'i community submits to the will of the majority in Iran. We believe in a democratic system. So I think it will be unfair for the Baha'is as a minority to try and express their wills, especially at this time where there is no fair way of hearing the voice of the majority of Iran and to know what is the voice of the majority. We are just trying to, I know is that Baha'is all over the world, and as you may know, that the Baha'i faith is one of the most widespread religions, not numerically, geographically, after Christianity. So you have Baha'is, native Baha'is of all nationalities living throughout the world in all countries. What they're trying to do is through peaceful action, through there is a belief that Baha'is always quote that the betterment of the world can be achieved through seemly and commendable actions. So that is our motto. That is what we try and promote. And that is the principle that we try and live our lives. So we align ourselves with really positive forces that bring unity. Baha'is are in the business of bridge building. They're involved with interfaith activities. We collaborate with our Muslim colleagues, Christian colleagues, Jewish colleagues, our humanist colleagues in this country. I'm friends with all of them, and we engage in interfaith activities. So the betterment of the world could be achieved through pure and goodly deeds, through commendable and seemly conduct, and that's what we do.
So decline to answer whether there's what the position is in general in the community in the war. I understand why. Another tough question. Why not? Why doesn't the Baha'i organization just give the beleaguered, oppressed Baha'is of Iran permission to lie? Why does it advise them not to lie? Why not just give them a permission to lie about their faith so they can go through university, go to school, and live their lives ordinarily? Why make their lives more difficult?
So it requires a bit of background. In the Baha'i faith, we do not have clergies. So there isn't anybody dictating to you about your personal beliefs of what you should do. Baha'is are free to deny their faith if they wish to do that. There isn't an authority to tell them not to do it.
And there's no one to excommunicate them if they
absolutely not. Okay. Absolutely not. I mean, we understand that the Baha'is in Iran, and this is what is heroic about them. This is a volition. So in the Baha'i faith, if you're born in a Baha'i family, as you would know, as you're an example, you're not automatically a Baha'i. You are encouraged to go and investigate for yourself and decide at the age of maturity whether you want to be a Baha'i or not. So this is not imposed on individuals, and at least in 99.9% this is observed. So the Baha'is in Iran are free to do, they don't need the permission of anybody to have their faith or deny their faith. And this is what is moving that, and this is what has moved the population, that they have this choice. They have the choice to come out of Iran. They have the choice to deny their faith. And the Iranian government would have loved to make a case, a file of all these Baha'is who have denied, and they got their properties back. They were given responsible jobs. Yeah.
And would they be welcomed back into the community afterward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think my experience is that the Baha'i faith is the most loving, wonderful faith. In the case of Peyvand, he was coerced to make a false convention, and see the whole entire Baha'i community has risen up to defend this youth who is suffering. So this is an example that Baha'is will not be condemned, and nobody can understand the pressure that these Iranian Baha'is are going through. But I need to point this out. Sure. Because there are many people who have been to prison with the Baha'is, including Roxana Saberi, who's, if you remember, she's a journalist.
Of course, I know her personally.
Well, there you go. We need to refer to her book. 30 pages of her book is devoted how, by associating with the Baha'is in prison, she got the strength not to lie. She got the strength
not to make a false confession.
Exactly. So this is a volition. This is something that Baha'is are trained from the beginning, that truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues, and you keep reminded. But obviously, we're all human and we're tested, and it's understandable if some people under pressure may deny their religion. But that is a point of contention for the Iranian government, because majority of Baha'is have resisted this and they're admired.
And I wanted to ask you this a little bit in the weeds, a little bit detailed. The dispute between the Baha'is and the Shia clergy began in the 19th century, actually. Why this huge rift between the Shia clergy and the Shia leadership and the Baha'i community, whereas, for example, the Shia clergy, they celebrate the Jews, Armenians, Zoroastrians, and Christian Armenians, and even to some extent the Sunni in Iran, they don't celebrate the diversity of having the Baha'i.
Well, we witnessed this in history. Like any religion that came after another religion has faced this opposition. So Baha'is came after Islam out of a matrix of an orthodoxy community. So the same way as the Christian were tested and went through trials or opposed by Jews, it's the same situation with the Baha'is. I wouldn't, because from the time of Baha'u'llah, who's the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, Baha'is have been counseled, have been guided not to turn this into a conflict. So we respect the teachings of Islam. We believe in divinity of all religions. We believe that the spiritual teachings of all religion is more or less the same as the social teachings that change. Now, the Baha'i faith is known to be progressive when it comes to equality of women and men. And the fact that we don't have clergy, and then Baha'is have institutions, elected institutions, that women are elected to administer to the affairs of the Baha'i community, again, is a point of contention for clergies because of these progressive ideas. The fact that we don't have clergy, But then Baha'is are all over the world and respected by many governments, and even in Islamic countries, Baha'is are respected for their contribution to the society. So this shouldn't be a point of contention for a government that respects freedom of religion or belief and is comfortable in their own skin. Because when you have the confidence in your beliefs, you don't need to coerce, you don't need to force your beliefs on other people.
My relatives, some of whom are more kind of social scientist types, they've always said that one of the points of contention was the fact that those who converted to the Baha'i faith were told by the Baha'i leaders, you're no longer required to pay the zakat, the khums, you don't have to pay the money anymore. So one of the things that I was always told was that one of the points of contention was about money, and the clergy feeling threatened, the Shia clergy feeling threatened about money. One other question I wanted to ask you, and this will be it, but talk about, if you will, this allegation that because the Baha'i faith is headquartered in Israel, the Iranians accuse it of being a dupe of the Israeli government. Could you just talk about what would you say to that accusation?
This is a false accusation. For those historians, those people who are familiar with history, they would know that historically, the Baha'i faith existed in that region before 78 years before formation of Israel. The government of Iran is distorting this historical fact because at the time of Baha'u'llah, who's the prophet founder, divine prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, he was banished and exiled from Iran to various countries, and finally to the prison city of Akka, where at the time it was Palestine. So that's how Baha'is came to exist in Holy Land. And there's a reason why it's called Holy Land, because most religions have a presence there. Yeah. So the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith passed away in that region, in Akka. So that's where he is buried, and that's where Baha'is turn to prayers. They go there for pilgrimage. So this is the basis of the Baha'i community have a presence in Israel. Our relationship with the government of Israel is like any relationship with any government in the world. Wherever we reside, we obey the laws of that country. We serve that country, and with the perspective of oneness of mankind. We believe the earth is one citizen and mankind, the earth is one country and mankind its citizens. So that's the perspective of the Baha'i community, which has been distorted by the Iranian government. They have Christians, they have holy sites in that region. They're not accused of being spies for Israel or agents of Israel. So why should Baha'is, who've historically been there before the formation of Israel, endure such false accusations?
That's interesting. So what you're saying is that basically the Islamic Republic should be celebrating Baha'is because they were born in a way in Palestine. This has been the Badlands podcast. My guest has been Padideh Sabeti. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Borzu, for this interview. Thank you.
Please subscribe to my newsletter. It's at borzu.substack.com. That's BORZOU.substack.com. Thank you so much for listening.